I was almost literally about to scramble to try and figure out what the hell I could record at the start of this, and I realized, oh, wait, no. I still have the other half of Epic 2 ranked, so hey, we're not even going to be slow about this. We're just going to get right into this. The list is up here. This is from part 1. If you haven't watched that, go back and check it. Check it to see my opinions about part 1 in very, very condensed fashion about opinions with me having to reconstruct my memory of the songs and all that stuff, and then come back and watch this video because this is part 2. Part 1 was last week. That's that. This is this. And now we go from Act 1 to Act 2. I don't know why I'm talking so fast. I can really just slow down. I don't know why. I'm just being oddly impatient with myself. So anyway, with the rest of Act 2 to do, we have 1, 2, 3, 4... Only 4 sagas to do this time. But each one has like 5 songs. So, we're going to be here for a hot minute. So, that said, thirsty. Anyway, I'm gonna need to make sure I'm drinking plenty of water as we talk through this. So, anyway. Thunder Saga, aka the saga where shit goes oh so sideways for Odysseus, and it's just all bad. Not bad in a good way, not bad in a, oh no, this sucks. No, in a very good way. So, to start us off, let's go... I feel like this is going to be controversial, but I think I picked Suffering in B. As is usual, I like the song, and it's a fun little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to... no. Suffering's a B for me. Not bad. Suffering, though, gets a B just because, like, it's a good little introduction. It's nice, it's funny, it's the little thing, but it's kind of the thing that I said before, where it's better paired with this follow-up song, Different Beast, where it's hard to kind of judge the two songs separately. Suffering and Different Beasts go together literally like peanut butter and jelly. It's like, yeah, you can't really have one without the other. I don't listen to Suffering on its own. If I listen to Suffering, I always try to make sure our Different Beast plays right after it. So that said, Suffering on its own, fun. I like the little plays. There's a lot of fun little tells if you listen audibly in the song for the fact that it's not actually Penelope and that it's the siren pretending to be here, and that Odysseus has obviously already caught on and is doing his best. And it's one of those things, again, where I feel like the animatics only help the song, because with a visual medium to help you kind of cue in on some things, it's like, oh, that's a much easier detail to pick up on now, actually. So, with that said, Suffering, B. Different Beast, on the other hand, Different Beast also gets B. Again, not being bad, but just funsies. We get Odysseus in the peak of his villain arc and being absolutely, positively horrendous. Just with killing the sirens and all that stuff, and making the crew realize that maybe they're in for some absolute nonsense now that Odysseus has decided the gloves are off and it is time to stop playing. As he said, so what if I'm the monster? Oh... It is a fun little thing. It is mostly the Odysseus villain arc song, though. That is kind of the thing. And again, it's better off when paired with Suffering, so that's kind of why the thing for it, too. So, it's kind of that. Scylla, though. Scylla... God, I feel so bad. I mean, honestly, I think we're going to make up for it with the last two, but so... I don't know why. Just the more I think about it, the more I realize that, like, Scylla... I think this is, because we're just judging these on the songs alone, Scylla also kind of suffers from the fact that it works better with a visual medium than the song itself. Like, it's not a bad song, and we all know that the run for your lives bridge leading into Scylla, drown in your portion, or I don't remember the full lyric, it's been a while, but like the full bridge into Scylla just tearing into the crew is immaculate, but it needs visuals. It's just one of those songs where the visuals elevate it, and it needs them to really shine, which is just the nature of a musical. Songs on their own will never be as full as when they have their intended stage directions going along with them to punctuate what's actually happening in the song. A concept album will only get us so far. That said, though, we're going to talk about them in secret, but the last two songs of Thunder Saga are just immediately S tier. Just immediately, Mutiny and Thunderbreeder are S tier, so in my mind makes up for the fact that the first two songs are kind of B tier for me. Mutiny and Thunderbreeder are just, so one by one, as usual. Mutiny is just, as the finale of Odysseus's crew before Thunderbreeder, it is wonderful. It is a surprisingly long song when you go through it, but the breakdown from Scylla, from Eurylochus to Odysseus's fight, and then the tonal shift the big thing that I think is the big part of Mutiny that helps the most is after you have the mutiny happen, it's the shifting of positions with Eurylochus and Odysseus, where Eurylochus becomes the tired, traumatized man in control of the situation, while Odysseus is the one begging to try and at least ease it a little bit, so that way they can make progress when they're on Helios' island, as he realizes they are potentially so screwed. And then it happens. It's like the big moment where Eurylochus says, "I'm just a man," and Odysseus can only go, "No," as like it hits that Eurylochus has had the exact same moment as he did, and all they can do after that is run right into the arms of Zeus the Thunderbringer. And what an introduction Thunderbringer is, to go from one to the other without stopping. Thunderbringer, God, Luke is immaculate at having the booming voice of the king of the gods, and also lending the vibe of making you absolutely hate the slimy bastard of a deity. Zeus's proper introduction, obviously we meet him initially in Horse and the Infant, but his proper, full, grandiose introduction in Thunderbringer is exactly the return to form it needed to be, because again, Zeus had only been heard the one time in Horse and the Infant. That's it. That's how it was. It was just the one time in Horse and the Infant, and then we have every other song leading to Thunderbringer to build back to Zeus, and it's such an immaculate payoff. And it's part of it's also the writing. I think it's one of the best written songs in terms of the way the lyricism works out in the puns too. Like the way that the lyrics are bent for Zeus of Thunderbringer or Thunder bring her. It's simple lyricism, but it works so well in terms of the puns and the double entendre and the metaphor that Zeus kind of leans in that helps lend to this image of this absolute slime ball of a bastard who just is accountable to literally nobody because he's the king of the gods. What are you going to do against that? Which, of course, makes for the perfect cap-off to the end of the first saga of Act 1, especially with that callback of just, with the end of the piano song for the last time we see Odysseus for literally an entire saga. Like, we don't see much of Odysseus for most of Wisdom Saga has nothing to do with Odysseus, which is very interesting of a shift. That said, getting into this, of course, Legendary, immediately S tier. Legendary is just immediately S tier because it is such a nice, wonderful little introduction to Telemachus and the setup to it. It's another one of those songs where I feel like the halfway split between the two tones leading into another is exactly that. Which, it's a nice introduction, and Miko's voice is amazing for Odysseus, which it becomes, not Odysseus, for Telemachus, which gets really funny because he actually has a lower register sometimes than Jorge does for Odysseus, which I find very funny, especially when we get to I Can't Help But Wonder, but we'll talk about those when we get to those. But Legendary is such a nice little introduction, and I do have to admit, part of it is definitely biased from how much I've listened to the WIP version of that way ahead of time. So it's definitely that, but it's definitely S-rank song for me, which is ironic because then Little Wolf is more A-rank for me as like a follow-up song where it's a bit different. I'm gonna sound weird because it's another one of those songs where it and Legendary kind of meant to go directly together without, I mean, a lot of the songs go from one to the other, but there's definitely some of them where, as I said in the first video, where it feels more like they're kind of meant to be played together directly without any serious kind of interruption thought about it. But Little Wolf is fun. Little Wolf is, again, fun. It's great. It's another song where I feel like it needs the visuals to really hit as it needs to. But having just that fight and then Athena's return after so long to encourage Telemachus. I just whacked an Allen key underneath my desk. That's what that ding was. Anyway, it's such a fun little reintroduction to Athena after all the time we haven't seen her. But of course, with Little Wolf in the fight between... I forgot. Legendary... No. Okay, you know what? No, Little Wolf does go to S tier because it's continuous. It's continuous in both songs. It is such a good introduction to another main villain for both Legendary and... I completely forgot to mention continuous in both, where both Legendary and Little Wolf set him up to be just, again, a complete slimeball bastard, and we get the peak of it in the Vengeance Saga, which again, we will talk about it in a moment. And it's just, oh god, yeah, no, those two together is actually just, oh god, continuous in both those songs, from just the menace in Legendary, and then the antagonism of Little Wolf, of just beating on Telemachus as he's trying his best, man. Ah, both good songs, which of course means that We'll Be Fine also S tier, which is a shorter song. It's a much shorter song as like the little capstone to this little trio. Let's call it the introduction to Telemachus trio, right? It's just a nice little tune. It sets up that, hey, now we have that. Telemachus and Athena are proper friends now. Athena can start healing and moving on and learning her lessons from Odysseus and mentor somebody new the way he wanted to be. Not as just a man to a god, but as a friend. As Telemachus is now set up to become the second warrior of the mind, but this time in a much better way than what Athena tried the first time. And it's such a nice little warm song, and it's definitely S tier because I've certainly listened to it a ton of times on its own, just because it's that kind of nice, it's that feeling of warmth is what it is for We'll Be Fine for me. That's what nails it. Which then, well, I definitely have to place Love in Paradise to A tier, which, very fun storytelling. It's our brief glimpse back to where Odysseus has been the last 7 years, and god, our man Odysseus is not doing good after Athena does her crazy time dive to catch up to him, basically. And it's like, oh no. Oh man, I'm tired. Anyway, it's like 9:30 as I'm recording this. Anyway, just the introduction to Calypso, and I mean, we've talked about it enough times in like multiple videos already, with like Calypso's character, her thing, and just the very uncomfortable nature of her character, the understandable nature of her plight, but also the utterly inexcusable behavior she shows towards Odysseus, even when she just very much cannot understand it. It's such a problem. It's problematic in the best way. Like, it's problematic in a way that makes you go, I get it, but also, god, they're in the wrong, and Odysseus in the absolute worst state he's ever been in. Just peak absolute Odie is depressed, please Athena help him. God damn. Which of course, as we know, she does in God Games, which is also S tier. And I don't even need to explain why. God Games is S tier because it's like, it's the showcase. It's all of the gods are here finally. I mean, not all of them. We're still missing like Hades, Hestia isn't here, but then again, they're not really super important to the Odyssey as characters, so it's what it is. But it's one of those songs that has the great construction. It's just having a bunch of other actors come in to be the other gods, you know. And it's the different musical styles too, with also the cool themes that Jorge does. I feel like once we get proper play visuals of Jorge's vision, it'll be even better to talk about. Not that we don't have like a half a dozen different animatics that probably do the job just as well. But God Games, S tier. Just every bar from every god hits right up to the end of just Zeus deciding, I'm done with this. How dare you bruise my ego by beating my game when you weren't supposed to? So just Athena finally getting that final through and just begging, literally as she's being fucking annihilated, just to let Odysseus go. Just let Odysseus go and let him return to where he needs to. And it is what it is. It is absolutely that feeling. It is, and it's why God Games is S tier. It's a hard song to talk about just because there's so much good about it, dog. It's just so goddamn good. And it's so, it's just peak. It's just a peak song. I totally realize. So I realized partway through, right as I was getting ready to transition from Wisdom Saga to Ocean Saga, that I had accidentally left my bookmark bar visible. So editing me gets to have the fun job of hiding that in the in later for a good a good almost 15 minutes. That'll be fun. So editing me, I hope you have fun with that. Anyway, where I was, my train of thought literally just crashed and burned from whatever I was talking about. I was talking about God Games. It's just, God, I find it so hard to just put my opinions into words when I don't have the song right in front of me with an animatic to kind of break everything down in sequence. Like, talking about it collectively, kind of having to try and remember everything after it's been a while is Makes these lists a little bit difficult to do, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, Ocean Saga. My memories of these are much sharper, I can guarantee you that. So, Not Sorry for Loving You. I put this in a B. I put Not Sorry for Loving You as a B. As our second Calypso song. It's kind of funny to put it below Love in Paradise. Actually, you know what? No, Love in Paradise goes down to B, actually. Love in Paradise gets to go down to B. These are not bad songs, but I just, actually... Yeah. Actually, no. What am I saying? Not Sorry for Loving You absolutely gets into A tier. It's like, again, as effectively the follow-up to Love in Paradise with Odysseus leaving Calypso's island. It just builds further on... Oh god, the voice crack. It just builds further on Love in Paradise and what it sets up with Calypso and her plight and her problems of explaining them, getting you to sympathize her, but never like washing away the fact of she was incorrect. She was the one in the wrong by pushing these onto Odysseus, by putting these things onto him and doing all of that. She was still in the wrong, objectively. But it does show you why she was like that, why she behaved the way she did, and why she took the measures that she added, because she was not sure how to take it. What else could she do when she's only been on an island on her own for 100 years, if not longer? So it doesn't absolve her of her wrongdoing, but it does explain why it was like that. But it is exactly what it is. And I had to potentially make a lot of people fucking mad at me, considering the fact of things. Dangerous is S tier. Our second Hermes song is S tier, after I put Wouldn't You Like in B tier in the first video. Dangerous gets to be S tier because I think it's a bit much better constructed. Like, it's a longer song. We get more of Hermes. We get the sick beat of "It's a little bit dangerous, my friend." Just all of that fun stuff with the vibes of Hermes getting to do his 80s synthwave thing. Much more than I think with Wouldn't You Like. Wouldn't You Like, to compare, kind of suffers from the fact it is a bridge song. Dangerous feels like another little cap-off song, though, right? Of having Hermes get his second major appearance to aid Odysseus. And I think one of the big things I like about it, too, especially among the things of just the beats in general, with Odysseus getting some of his confidence back, getting his groove back, so to say, is between the WIP and the final version, actually, there's a really nice line change. Where in the WIP, when at the end of the song, like in the WIP finish for initial version, like the initial draft, when Hermes leaves, he says, "Don't thank me, friend, you very well may die." But then for the release version, the line changes, "Don't thank me, friend, I'm not the one who fought for you," which is an excellent change in line and sets the tone to the allusion to what happened in God Games that Odysseus is going to kind of figure out by the time of I Can't Help But Wonder, when he meets with Athena again for the first time in 10 goddamn years, almost 20 actually when you think about it. It's yeah. It's a lot. Charybdis, then, honestly, I'm gonna be with you. I'm gonna pick Charybdis in C tier. Again, this is not to say anything bad about the song itself. Charybdis, C for Charybdis. Okay, Charybdis is strange, right? Because Charybdis is a pure Odysseus solo song, but it's not like a big character moment, right? It's literally just, okay, here's like what our second to last obstacle between Odysseus and Ithaca before Poseidon shows back up. And it's kind of just that weird bit where, like, it's just kind of there. Like, that's the weird thing about Charybdis. Like, I like the song. I think it hits hard, like the holding on. Like, it hits good. Don't get me wrong. The song hits. It's not a bad song, but it does kind of just weirdly exist between the emotional beats of Calypso's just final resolution and the vibes with Hermes, and then everything going nuts with Poseidon. And then we just kind of have Charybdis here, which is just Odysseus kind of like, yeah, there's one more monster and I gotta get past it, but whatever. I'm just gonna speed run the hell out of this one, which is like, okay, it's cool, but like, I can't really say much more than that. It's eh. Like, the visuals certainly help, especially with the animatics, or like the canon animatic too from the live stream, but it's like, eh? That's just kind of my summation of Charybdis. Is like, it's not a bad song, but it's just kind of there in the grand scheme of the overall play and the story. It's just sort of not bad, but not a lot to write home about, so it's kind of our only C tier song. compared to the D tier songs, which just kind of suffer from the fact they're like fully transitional. Like that's kind of the thing. It's like the D tier, like Full Speed Ahead and Storm are in D tier because they literally just don't really contribute anything. And then Charybdis at least is between things. It is Odysseus getting to be a badass, but it's like, it's just kind of there. I don't really know what else to say about that. Anyway, though, Get in the Water and 600 Strikes are S tier. I don't think this needs to be exaggerated on like these two songs. This is I'm gonna actually rank these two songs together, right, between these two, because these two songs very much are kind of meant to be paired. I do think there's a weird thing in the fact that Charybdis has a part that I think should have been the start of Get in the Water. To kind of mention that, like, right, like I think Neil Illustrator did this best for her Get in the Water animatic of kind of blending the end of Charybdis into the beginning of Get in the Water. I think that flows a lot better, right? Like, it's just a weird place of things being kind of cut and stitched together that I think is a little bit awkward. Like, it's the only part of this saga that I think is a little bit too strange in the Ocean Saga, with that cut between Charybdis and Get in the Water. But it doesn't detract too much from Get in the Water, because once it goes, and Poseidon is on all the fucking demon timing for this song. It is all the way out there from moment one, once he starts and is telling Odysseus to get in the water. That's not even the accent. What am I saying? I was trying to put on the gravel and I couldn't do it. I apologize immensely for butchering the fuck out of that line. I can't do the gravel. I can't do the get in the... My attempts to do it makes me sound like a 40k orc for some reason. I don't know why. I guess I just associate graveliness with a vague Cockney accent. Anyway, as it goes though, it's also that end though, how we have that another moment where a song transitions to from something so intense, from just the cries of get in the water and almost that, but then the other big part too is that moment where where Odysseus is like, why don't we stop though? It's been 10 years. Why are we still holding on to this? We're both suffering and in pain, but why don't we just let go and move on? And then you have that bit with Poseidon where it's just he can't do it. And however you interpret that, whether it's like, say, the canon version where it's just him being kind of spiteful, or I think what I prefer Neil's version where it's him being a father and like, no, I can't let go. I can't let go of what you did to my son. But it's just, ooh. And then, of course, like in so many other songs, Jorge hits us in the face by reminding us of bridges from other characters as Odysseus is effectively drowning. Oh God, the end of Get in the Water gives me emotional damage, and Jorge still owes me the therapy bills for it. Which, of course, though, it's okay. Actually, you know what? I need to correct myself. 600 Strikes is actually an A rank. I need to correct myself. I'm sorry. I think 600 Strikes is very great. What keeps it out of B is the second part of the song. Let me explain. The first part of the song is, I think, a bit too anime. And I say this as someone who fully gets Jorge because we're basically the same fucking age. And it throws me for a loop that he and I are from like the same general age bracket. So I get Jorge. The craziest part is I fully understand where Jorge comes from and where his ideas are, like, especially when I see his animatics and the way he sets things up. I'm like, oh, you got that from this. Like, I watched his shorts where he showed, like, his reference video that he sent to the animators, and, like, half of the time I was like, God damn it, this man watches every fucking show I do. And so I understand his mindset with 600 Strikes. But as someone who writes a ton of fanfiction for anime, who writes a novel that is very explicitly meant to emulate a Japanese light novel, and has written another book that's just there on the side that is a mecha story, 600 Strikes' first part is just a little bit too anime for the kind of story that it is. I don't mind Poseidon's big water demon monster, but something about the goddamn using the windbag as a jetpack is just a little bit too... taking it a step a bit too far for something that was otherwise quite grounded until the gods get involved. And then the 600 Strike itself is another moment where I'm like, I see, Jorge, my man, my brother from another mother. I understand your vibe. I understand your inspiration. I see where you got this from. But maybe this should be dialed back by like 10 notches. And I hate saying it. I hate saying it as a man who shamelessly capped off the first arc of his own novel with the main character doing some goddamn Super Saiyan shit. It is just, it's such a painful thing. It's like, it's not, I'm not cringing out of embarrassment. I'm cringing because I understand so well. But as a writer, I'm like, maybe this needed to be dialed back. But then it's totally saved though because of the second half. Like the second half of 600 Strikes totally saves it for me because we dial it back. Exactly, we dial it back to being on the ground again, to Odysseus literally and figuratively chewing into, okay, well not literally chewing into, but you know, stabbing him with the trident repeatedly. Just that entire pained, angry speech from Odysseus as he tells him, look what you've done, look what you and I, look what you've turned me into, look what we have become because of this. Look at what we're doing to each other. Just that entire speech of, I would rather not do this if I could, but I have decided this is necessary, and I hate every waking second of it. It's that final, that vitriol, that anger, just finally getting to let it out on the son of a bitch who put him in this situation to begin with. And the way it ends, that bitter moment of, how will you sleep at night next to my wife? Mic drop. It is some peak anti-hero writing to have the character basically say, I'm not going to sleep well, but at least I'll have someone there with me. Which, I mean, obviously we'll talk about when we get to Would You Fall in Love with Me again, because Penelope is peak wife, Odysseus is a lucky bastard. We'll talk about that when we get there. Anyway, next saga to wrap this up, and we're definitely going to be here for a while because we're already almost 30 minutes in and we're only at the final saga. Okay, so I'm going to say it right now, none of the songs in the Vengeance saga are below an A tier for me. Like, the entire saga is either A to S tier, and we'll talk about them individually. We'll be very careful. And because this is the final saga, my memories of this are peak. So, okay. This is going to be a bit strange to go for, but... So, you know what? Okay, yeah, no, actually, okay, so... Challenge goes into A tier. Challenge is good as the introduction in our first real Penelope song. Like, we've heard her voice being used by others before, but this is the first time we really get Penelope herself. And what do we get but a tired old queen who has had a brief spout of excitement at the possibility that maybe her husband is finally home. So what does she do? Issues her challenge. One final bet to buy time. My throat is seizing up. Hold on. Remember, folks, when you're yapping nonstop, drink water. So, issuing the challenge is both fun because of, like, just a bridge to it, and the pure Penelope song, and just, it's the lead into so much goodness with what happens here, and everything that goes on is just, but it is A tier because it is a lead in. Everything else, though, rest of the Vengeance saga is just S tier, and we'll just place them here just that way we can just avoid having to place them later as I talk about them. So, as it goes, Hold Them Down. Hold Them Down is S tier for peak villain song. And we know why, because Antinous' actor, bless his soul, this man was hired to play the most vile asshole conceived in a long time in fiction. And he does it so well. Like, he does such a good job at playing Antinous, at lending his amazing vocals to make you just hate this guy. Like, it's the kind of performance where it's like, God damn, you really made me hate this guy. Good job. Like, I think it takes a lot more, and I think this is an interesting thing as a writer to talk about. I think it takes a lot more to make you hate a character than to make you like them. And I mean, like, genuinely hate. Like, hate so bad some dumbasses start hating the actor. You did so good of a job of making me hate the character that some people who can't differentiate fiction from reality are mad at the actor for it. Like I've never seen Game of Thrones, but apparently a lot of people talk about this with, like, the actor who plays the one Kid King. Like, he does such a good job playing such a detestable little brat that people were actually kind of pissed at the actor himself. And I'm so glad that for Hold Them Down, that Intinuous's actor did not get that everyone understands fully that this is an actor playing a role, and God does he do it well. Everything that Intinuous says in this song is either dripping with, like, the kind of mood that makes you just roil with hatred to just the slimy feeling of just the ultimate creep when you get to just the part with Penelope and using her violin to reflect. Oh, it makes you feel so uncomfortable. And then the song climaxes with the most cathartic cutoff in fucking musical history, in my opinion. And I don't listen to a lot of musicals, so I wouldn't know. But just the cutoff of hearing Odysseus fire the bow and hearing the chorus of channel the fire inside your soul being cut off by the arrow hitting Intinuous in the throat is absolutely what seals the song to being as great as it is. As it builds for several minutes, you just have to sit there, listen to this bastard go off, get hype, rally the troops, and say the most heinous things. And then he's dead. Rightfully so. As the old king returns, and so we get Odysseus, the final boss fight, where the boss wins. Oh, it's another song where I'm going to be so interested in what the play direction for it is going to be. Just the way we go through this of going from suitor to suitor as Odysseus cuts them down one by one, just in droves, of all these different ways they try to either fight back or, in one case, desperately appeal to him, hoping maybe they can convince him to stop, when nope, he's already decided they're all dead here. Then to versus that, which it's just Odie being the villain of the song. And it's so good. Like, none of the suitors are good guys, objectively, but they are the victims. Like, they are the victims in this situation. They are not the antagonists anymore. They are the victims. And it is so good. And of course, we get Telemachus coming in, getting to be, a badass in his own right, getting to get his licks in finally. At least, until he gets overwrought. But then, do you think Telemachus has a bit of trauma about this being how he meets his dad? Like, just a question. Do you think that this being the way he met his dad left a little bit of trauma? Yeah, just a bit. I mean, just thought, I would probably be a little bit shaken up too if I finally met my dad when I'm 20 and the first thing he does when he gets home is murder like over 100 people in the span of maybe an hour. Just dad things, warrior king things. Yeah, no, it just is that. I'm also absolutely biased thanks to Duvet Box's animatic, which I think is like the best one, not gonna lie. I think it's one of the best Odysseus animatics out there. But then, to dial back, to calm down, to kind of let myself cool off a bit too, I can't help but wonder, I can't help but wonder is, I think, a perfect way to kind of do exactly that, to draw you back from, like, the hype and the adrenaline of something like Odysseus, of finally getting to cheer on Odysseus getting a victory like that, to then dialing it back to father and son finally meeting, and just taking a time to wonder what both of them have been through before the big release. As I like to describe the song, as I said in the video itself, the moment when Odysseus gets to hug Telemachus and say, "I'm home," is when he really wins. Not beating Poseidon, not beating the suitors. It is getting to say to his son, "I'm home." That is where he wins, and it's why it hurts so good when you just have that bridge finally build up to the two getting that moment. It is Oh. And what hit me the most unexpectedly, I think, had to be the extra verse with Athena. Which, again, I'm kind of going to say that it does kind of hurt the fact that we don't see Athena too often, but just that final little resolution between them. Showing that they've kind of ironically swapped places, right? Like, now Athena's the one who's wondering if a gentler, better world would be a good idea, while Odysseus has become the hardened warrior who she originally wanted him to be, and he fully admits that, I don't know if that world could exist. It's beyond me at this point. Like, I'm too old, I'm too tired, I'm too worn for that kind of world to be something I could build now. But, hey, you'll be around a lot longer than me, so maybe you'll see it come about. You definitely have the time. But it's just that little end. Just the little end from Athena. That little very well is so... It just... The song makes me tear up just thinking about it, man. It's, so good. Of course, though. Of course. What we also have to finalize and talk about is the end itself. Would you fall in love with me again? The emotional pinnacle, the end of the play, absolutely rockedly deserves high S tier. I think objectively, if I wasn't ordering the songs by Saga, this is the best song in the saga, in my opinion. The final song is one of the best. How ironic, but it is just that. It is Odysseus and Penelope, husband and wife, estranged by 20 years of war and just everything in their mother stopping Odysseus from getting home. And what do they say at the end after getting everything out, after saying everything they could possibly say to each other? Odysseus saying, I don't feel like I'm the man you fell in love with anymore, but would you still love me again? Would you fall in love with me again? And just the release, it's the moment for me when Penelope just tells him straight up to his face, you are still my husband. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what has happened. You got here, and even if something about you has changed, even if you are hurt and damaged, you are still my husband, the man I love. It is such a wonderful message, I think, too. And it's like what I said in the video. I think there's an irony that it does kind of prove Tiresias wrong. So Greek prophecies have a bit of a thing of what we like to call the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Greek prophecies are the sort of thing where they'll always come true because their wording is meant to be imprecise, right? Like, it's very exact in nature. It's exact yet imprecise. So, as to quote a turtle again, one often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. And Tiresias is still right in that the man who gets home to Penelope is not the Odysseus who went to war 20 years ago, a man who's haunting with a trail of bodies. But as Penelope so clearly says, what matters about Odysseus, what matters to her, it didn't change. The man who would get mad because she asked him to move the bed he carved out of a tree and literally built their palace around. That's the man that she loved. And that's the man who didn't change. And it's Odysseus, I think, finally being told that makes him realize that it's done. It's really done. He's won, he's back home, and it's finally over. He's with his family again, and we end on the simple words of I love you. And I think, for a play that starts with a man at war who drops a baby off of a wall, do not let that be forgotten, that the most fitting way to end this play about a character who does objectively terrible things in his attempts to get home, who gets hundreds of people killed both by his own merits and just by sheer bad luck, that the end of the play is him being told by the one person he's been struggling so hard to see all this time, you are still the person who matters to me, and I love you. And that is why Wouldn't You Fall in Love with Me is so good, and it's why it makes me cry so much. So that said, this is our ranking. This is where the songs are placed. This is not objective. This is not anything more than my absolutely shot in the dark opinion with no real structuring aside from completely being arbitrary, made up, not meaning anything. So hey, if you got other opinions you want to say, leave them in the comments and I'll definitely reply to them, because when I post this video, I conveniently don't have work, so I'm gonna be lurking in the goddamn chat. Ha 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 ha. I'm saying this at the end of the video. I don't know why. I've probably already talked to people, if anyone is even watching the premiere. That said, see you all next time. I'm gonna figure out what the hell we're gonna be watching next week. I don't know. Maybe I did a thing. Cause I'm curious. I kind of want to watch that guy. Anyway, until next time.